Is this thing on? I think it's on. All right. Hello, you cool cats and kittens. Welcome to this week's Spirits People Live. We are having a group blind tasting tonight, and we have a special guest alongside the Spirits People crew, Mr. Bourbon Patty and Mr. Rum Diaries blog. So I'm going to bring them on one by one, just like last week, and we'll see what these guys are up to, and let's see if anyone is joining us. I got Steve in the chat. What's going on, Steve? Thanks for hanging out. Greg is here as well, and we'll see, hopefully, a few more people. So let's bring on, first of all, who's most ready? Boom. Steven. This is like live roulette. I'll bring you on randomly.
As long as it's not like chat roulette. God, that sounds horrific.
We'll wait and see what happens when Magnus comes on.
How's it going?
What's going on, man?
Yeah, all good this way, you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Welcome back.
Cool. Thank you very much.
You had a good week since last week?
Yeah, a few days off, a few bottles arrived, which is always good. And yeah, after a little road trip around Dipistarchus, Italy and France, they finally arrived, which is good.
Oh, sweet. That's awesome. Did you have a chance to sip some fun stuff over the Easter break then?
Yeah, I dug into the Plenty Pot and Ziario. Managed to make another dent in the Thompson Brothers Worthy Park bottling, the Whiskey Exchange exclusive, which was an absolute steal at 65 quid, I think, but sold out now. Yeah, and Better Chairman's Reserve, one of the 100% Vendome pots still, which was a release for Royal Mail Whiskies. And yeah, dug into the O-Rum Purity, which was a 4-year-old Worthy Park with an extra year in port cask that was reviewed today. So nice. Quite young, but yeah, nice run.
Sweet, man. Looks like you've been busy.
Busy doing nothing.
All right, cool. Thanks for joining again this week, and yeah, we'll see what we can come up with today. A couple of blind samples, and yeah, you never know.
Indeed.
Never know. All right, let's bring on. Oh God, let's bring on this guy.
Can everyone see my D?
I see your D.
It's chat roulette. There you go. It's just some dude showing everyone his D.
It's pretty small though. That's to be expected.
Big dark D. Look at that. Looking forward to tonight. We're doing samples C and D for anyone who cares. How's everyone?
Good, man. You?
Good. Busy but good.
Nice. Do you have a good Easter break, man? Do you have a good Easter break?
Yeah, it was good. My son actually started walking around on his own without just having to hold his hand, so that's nice. He's
oh snap,
running around now, so everything's moved another few feet up.
Yeah, dude, hide the bourbon.
oh, I've already that's a few months behind. Yeah, that's already done.
Nice. Cool, man. Martinus, thanks again for joining this week. Hopefully this will be fun. 2 very different samples from last week. We'll see what happens.
Yes. Some bourbon.
We're on to C and D. Last week was A and B, so we're taking it in order as we go.
Nice.
So last and final blind taster, special guest, Mr. Vin PF from NoNonsenseWhisky. There he is in the flesh. Welcome on board.
Thanks for having me, man. It's good to be here.
It's good to see you, man. We so I don't know if you caught up with the last week's stream. So I asked these guys when the last time they did a blind tasting, but obviously I know the answer to that for those 2 guys because that is exactly a week ago. How about yourself? When's the last time you did a proper blind tasting?
A proper blind tasting. I on YouTube I did one fairly recently, maybe a month or so ago. I think we did that over on Aquavitae, and a guy called Gregor. I don't know if he's crossed your path at all. He managed to get a bunch of samples to loads of us, and that was amazing. A really good experience, and that's the beauty of blind tasting, isn't it? Like I've given up trying to guess what's in the glass now because I'm really bad at it. Unless you've got like, if you give me the bottles here about which 2 these are, I'll probably have a guess by the colour. But blind tasting, man, it's just about what I like and what I don't like. That's the only way I can do it.
Solid, man. That's the way to do it.
Nice.
How about your Easter break? Do you have any good drams?
Yeah, plenty. To be fair, it's the weirdest thing about this being at home vibe. I've been at home for this is my 4th week now. The drinking hasn't stopped, but because I haven't got to see anybody tomorrow, it kind of like you just think it's Tuesday, but I think who cares, man? Because I'll just turn my camera off tomorrow. Nobody will notice.
Yeah.
So but we've been on our own, so we haven't seen anybody. Few bits of chocolate and whatnot, but it's just been a normal weekend, really.
Yeah, solid. Yeah, I was out making my breakfast at around 10 this morning, and I had the makings of old fashions on the countertop, and I was like, I don't see why not.
That's the trouble is there's no one telling you not to do it anymore, is there? You are just like, oh, can't be bothered anymore. Just crack on with it. Do whatever you want.
Oh God, don't get me started, man. It's just too easy. Like there's no rules anymore.
Yeah, do whatever the hell you want.
Exactly. All right, cool. So Vin, thanks again for joining tonight. Hopefully this will be a fun experiment. And yeah, if you may have seen, if you saw last week, they're completely random samples. You may or may not have tried any of these. You may or may not have tried any of these categories. Who the fuck knows? We'll find out, and we'll do it in the order of C and D. We'll end on the D, which is Martin's favorite.
It's everyone's favorite. Guys are gonna love it.
Favorite. Cool. Awesome. And thanks everyone for jumping in and watching all this stuff live. There's a bunch of people in the chat. I'll say hi to you guys in a second. But yeah, I wanted to just get started and jump straight into the first sample here so that we can keep people entertained, because that's why we're doing all this stuff, I guess. And to get drunk.
Yes, let's not forget. Most important part.
Yeah. So the way I kind of envision these tastings is that obviously we'll focus on the standard stuff like nose, palate, and then finish, and then maybe give it a little bit of a rating. Last week we did like 1 to 5 on each of those 3. I think that kind of what we ended up doing. So I think that makes sense. We'll do that as well. We'll kind of get some tasting notes, and then I guess to your point, Vin, it's less about guessing what it is, but more about like what you like and what you don't like, and we can just kind of talk about it like that.
Fair.
Cool. All right.
Excellent.
First dram. And cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Boom. Well, Stephen, you're very vocal when it comes to tasting notes. So I'm gonna let you give us a little bit of a runway here. What's your initial thoughts on this, just straight off the bat? Give us some stuff.
Good. Well, it seemed a little bit boozy to start with. Quite a bit of alcohol in there to disappear. There's a lot kind of like mildly spicy. There's a nice kind of underlying sweetness to the nose.
It's definitely boozy.
It's a weird one, but kind of a little bit. I don't know. This is going to sound really strange, but if you imagine like walking through an old library or a library book that's not been taken out for a while, and somebody just leafs through it, and you get that kind of old papery smell, like a dusty paper smell. It's a little bit like that.
Yeah,
it's a bit of dust in there.
Yeah.
Vin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, mirrored. Definitely getting some mustiness off of this, but one of the things I like to do is guess ABV. That's kind of a thing that I've been getting into recently, and I want to say somewhere between sort of 50 and 52. I think. I don't think much more than that. Certainly not less. But
Stephen, here's a compliment.
You wish you had my nose. I'm assuming the olfactory ability as opposed to
the actual nose, just stuck on the side as an extra nose.
Where would you like it, Chris?
Let's make it interesting.
Well, this will determine whether I want to leave it attached or not.
Oh my gosh.
I'm getting a lot of what you guys are getting. There's definitely a bit of a dustiness to it. There's some nice dried fruit, a little tiny bit of citrus I'm getting as well, and then some nice kind of faintly charred oak in the back, which I usually would associate with something that's maybe a little bit older or possibly dusty and was older, bottled under a younger age statement, that kind of thing. That's nice. And there's a bit of spice as well, which is real nice.
Yeah. I love this stuff. This is like a wonderful nose.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of like caramel.
It's like about rye and all sorts of things like that. So for me, I think it smells like a bourbon with a fairly decent rye content, but
there's a bit of cinnamon. That I usually get with rye whiskey, but it's if it is a rye, it'd be like a 51% rye, but a bit of corn. You know, like it's either a high rye bourbon or just barely legal rye.
What do you think about the ABV there, Martinus?
I'd say about 100 proof-ish. It's nice. Doesn't punch you in the face, but it knows it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of earthy nuttiness to it as well. It's going to be like a nice little baking spice. The more you nose it, the more that comes out. But there's some nice caramel in there.
Oh yeah, butterscotch. Why don't you warm it up? Solid. What's the proof for you, Stephen? What do you think?
I think the nose made me think it was a little bit higher than it actually is on the palate. Then the nose was leading me to think was like potentially upwards of 55, but I think palate-wise, I think I'd probably go in 48 to 50.
All right. Cool. So Stephen a little bit lower, Vin a little bit higher. Got 100 proof right there with Martinus.
Wow, it's spicy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Let's see who's in the chat here. So I said hey to Steve earlier. So got Steve Whiskey. I don't even know how to say that. Whiskey Brer. Is that right?
That's what I would say.
I apologize, Steve. I'm horrible with this. Steve, thanks for hanging out, man.
I want to know the story behind that name.
James is here as well. What's going on, dude? Got Jimmy here. Jimmy Jazz.
Hello, everyone.
What's going on? Mark Slinger is here. Lee Curvin. Sweet.
Nice. Full house tonight.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. And of course, Chris, who wants to have an extra nose. It's awesome. Greg is here, of course.
This is really...
hopefully everyone is having a dram on his Tuesday night.
This really pushes on from the nose. The palate on it is just beautiful, isn't it?
Damn
very
right.
Tannic. Kind of feel it inside the cheek straight away.
Yeah, it's almost you get kind of like that a nice peppery kind of a nice peppery sting on the tongue, maybe a little bit some proper like barrel spice in there. But then it almost it lulls you into a full sense of security. It breaks into kind of a little bit, almost kind of like a candy floss sweetness before it then just kind of that washes straight off the back of your tongue and dries the sides of your tongue out. Something ridiculous.
Yeah, there's some nice barrel-driven notes here, and for me on the palate, I'm getting like cherries, and then I'm getting spice. I'm getting oak as well, and then on the kind of like as it disappears, I'm getting like a really earthy, nutty kind of a note.
Yeah.
With that sweetness that Stephen was talking about.
What do you think, Vin?
Yeah, completely agree with all of that. I'm getting some kind of weird marzipan-y vibe. Very, very light and faint on the back end.
Yeah.
Light. And it's funny because I hate marzipan, but I don't mind it when I get it a tiny little touch of it on the back end of a bourbon. It's a nice little touch. But,
how can you hate marzipan? What's wrong?
It's just something, I don't know what it. When I was a kid, the smell of it, it's like mushrooms, man. I can't stand mushrooms either. One of those things. Luckily, you don't smell mushrooms on whiskey very often.
Yeah, I hate mushrooms. I can't deal with that shit. But yeah, marzipan. Straight up, yeah.
Almonds sometimes, like marzipan again, like an almond, in certain bourbons, you get a lot of that. And I have actually asked producers who produce a very marzipan-heavy bourbon, and they said they ferment their beer for like 7 days, and that's when you start getting those almondy notes that they would be looking for in their product.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is that considered a long ferment for a bourbon or American whiskies?
Yeah,
So
that would be
7 days,
long
right?
enough. That would
Yeah,
be quite
it's pretty long.
Yeah.
What standard is like 48 hours or something? It's not that long actually for bourbon, is it?
Depends on producer, I think. Depends what they want out of their yeast. If you have someone like Four Roses who puts a lot of effort into their yeasts, or even who else cultivates their own yeast? Brown-Forman have different styles of yeast for each of their different, whether it's Old Forester or Woodford Reserve and stuff. And it just depends what you want your yeast to do, what kind of yeast you're going for. Do you want fruity or do you want marzipan-y? The longer you leave it, the more you get different kind of waste products as the yeast just peters out.
Yep.
Do they end up temperature controlling it, I assume? Just to keep it down, to keep the yeast active? So obviously I would assume the temperatures, the ambient temperature's quite high. Obviously not Caribbean high, but definitely far higher than ambient temperature in Scotland.
Yeah, it gets quite hot in the fermentation process because all those yeast cells are kind of going through their respiration cycle. And so I know in the summer they shut down, most distilleries shut down for maintenance because the yeast goes out of control because it's so warm outside they can't bring it down quick enough. So there might be some element of keeping temperature consistency, but a lot of these places have like open top fermenters with cypress wood lining the fermenters and stuff as well, which lends its own little funkiness to it. I think Four Roses are down to half and half steel, half and half cypress fermenters at the moment. Yeah, hard wood to get, considering that it's protected and you can't log it, so you have to wait for it to fall into the swamp and then drag it out.
It's getting more and more tannic for me, this one. On the finish, I'm getting more and more of the wood coming through. It gets quite bitter. What do you guys think about the finish?
It's good. Beautiful. It's not like super long, but it's long and dries out like what Steve said. It's dries out and it's spice led for sure. And those oaky notes is coming out. It's almost like licking a bit of wood towards the end.
There's a shit ton of barrel notes in this. Even on the palate, I'm getting it straight away. There's a lot of nice big bold flavors, but they are all coming out of the barrel. You're getting like cloves, you're getting like spicy oak. It's drying out the inside of your mouth. You're getting your burnt nuts. You're getting just even the caramels, though, but burnt caramel. When I tasted it first, I was like, "What's that burnt taste?" And it was again just more barrel notes. There's cherries coming out as well. So I'm assuming this is a bourbon or a Tennessee whiskey, something that has been aged somewhere very, very hot.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well,
I think you get kind of a little bit of obviously the dryness into the finish. There's plenty of spice. It's almost like one of those random kind of nut bars that are unsweetened. So it's kind of it's a less sweet, less roasted, even more kind of just, I don't know, regular peanuts. But it's kind of the spices. It kind of sticks with it throughout. It isn't, as you were saying, it isn't a massively long finish, but it is enjoyable. From there is good development from what was for me initially quite a boozy nose into the palate and then into the finish. It's it's kind of a bit of like you're saying. There's definitely kind of like licking a lump of wet wood. There's a little bit of minerality to it as well, and maybe some. If you remember in science class, the little wooden splints that you used to use to light the Bunsen burner. A little bit of that kind of like thin charred wood. Yeah,
bitter charred oak. And the more you drink it, the more it builds on your tongue and on your cheeks, and you just get more bitterness.
Either way,
it's nice.
I likes it.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, I've got left for me. Not much. That's going in my infinity bottle for sure.
Boom. I think for me, the more I drink this, the faster I want to drink it. because I think the finish kind of takes over a little bit too much, and the nose and the palate is just so amazing for me. So this is a very dangerous thing for me to pour.
Well, we appreciate your generosity in sending it to us.
Mm-hmm. All right, so I guess there's some people starting to guess here. So Bourbon Patty is saying bourbon. Not surprised. Not surprised. Do we have
hashtag it's bourbon for everything?
It's definitely bourbon.
If I'm gonna be wrong, I might as well have a hashtag to make it wrong in style.
Nice, solid. I'll see if I can put a hashtag up here.
Go on.
Hashtag it's bourbon.
Hashtag it's bourbon.
For everything,
Maybe.
Except that cha-cha or whatever that thing is that we had last week, which looked like a urine sample. Hashtag it's a urine sample.
Well, you will never know. You will never know, Martinus. You may have gotten a different sample than everyone else.
Tasted the same as what everyone else got.
All right, Vin, do you want to throw anything else in there in terms of guesses before we start rating the aspects here?
Yeah, so I think bourbon. I think with a decent rye wedge. I've gone as far to say in a comment that I think it's probably maybe a bottled in bond or something. 50%. I'm gonna stick on. I went for a 2% wedge there, so I'm gonna stick with 50. But in terms of what it is and where it is, no idea.
That's fine.
It's good, whatever it is.
Sweet. Stephen?
Obviously, my bourbon and rye experience is limited, but I would say it's got the spice I'd expect with a rye, but that kind of, I don't know. I'd probably veer towards bourbon. It's a bourbon. Hashtag it's a bourbon.
Yes, my man. Also,
right,
thank you, Stephen, for not wearing your Spirits People hat and not leaving me left out again.
That's okay. I didn't want to. I feel like you felt maybe a little bit victimized last week, so I thought I'd rock the old Trailer Happiness merch.
Nice.
Well, I appreciate it. Oh, look, no nonsense in that hat.
Exactly.
Nice.
We've actually flipped it today. We've gone.
I noticed that earlier. Yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like there was a chat hat where we were involved, and it said, "I'll wear your hat if you wear my hat."
Yeah. I'll send it later. Yeah.
Some Patreon donations went one way and then back again across the other way.
Yeah. PayPal took its cut.
Nice.
Yeah, they always do.
All right, cool. So there's I'm sure people are waiting in the chat here. So before I pull up the bottle, I want to try and get some initial thoughts on the nose, the palate, and the finish. And we'll start with the Bourbon Patty because it's bourbon.
Hey, hashtag it's a bourbon. Yeah. So the nose was the highlight for me, to be honest. The palate following close after. The nose probably a 4, palate 3.5. And then the finish, maybe a 2.5 because as it builds, it gets quite bitter. I do think it is a bourbon or it's a very low level rye. I think I agree with Vin saying there's a nice wedge of rye spice in there. But for me, the barrel is very prominent on the palate and on the finish. And so, yeah, it might be a little bit older. I mean, it could possibly be this year's George T. Stagg, for all we know, which is about 15 years old and at that age would have quite a bit of wood in the palate, and in the finish. But yeah, I think it's a bourbon. And
All right.
I think it's
4, 3.5, 2.5.
Yeah.
What about you, Stephen? What are you thinking?
I'd say because of the initial kind of boozing out, I'd say nose probably 3.5. Palate for me was where I enjoyed it most. So a 4. Finish is probably down at 2.5 to 3.
All right, Vin.
I'm not far off Steve, actually, to be fair. I'm going to go for a 3.5 on the nose. Got better for the palate for me for a 4. And then back down to 3.5 for the finish. So very similar.
Nice.
All right. I would say, for me personally, it's a 4, and then 3.5. I think it's really good, but then it just dips a little bit. But then you can get around that by drinking it really fast. So for me, that's kind of a win-win. So doesn't really lose anything here. But
how does your liver feel about that?
We have this particular bottle, and Martin, you should be very familiar with this.
Should. Oh, 2016?
17.
17. Shit, I would
Yeah.
have thought that was 16.
Oh shit, Martinus.
You know, the 17 was never my favorite, Johnny. It was yours.
I know.
Smelling this glass, though, I'm getting like almost like a burnt plasticky smell now that it's empty. It's like a vegetable, burnt vegetable note. But yeah, there you go. Surprise, surprise.
53.9.
Nice.
Hides the ABV well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's well integrated. So yeah,
I would have sworn that was 2016. 2016 is filled with charred oak notes in the
16
land
is
of
way more herbal, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm smelling this glass. It's empty, and I'm getting some burnt herbs. What I'm getting. So I am surprised, but it was delicious. Hashtag it's a bourbon. I was right.
Hashtag it is and it was a bourbon.
Yeah,
Amazing.
a broken clock is right twice a day.
Exactly. Nice. I think it's strange when I'm tasting it and listening to other people taste this, because this is supposedly my favorite of all of the limited editions.
Supposedly.
Of these 4 roses, but yeah, I think I probably should do it blind against everything. And Martinez, we have
we did that.
Some upcoming. Well, we did, and then we didn't, because we didn't manage to do it blind, so we didn't it.
I think we need to get our significant others to collaborate on a blind.
I think so.
Taste off. You know, got to do it for the gram, man.
Yeah, man. James is down with the 4 roses. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Vin is.
Yeah, I just poured it into my infinity bottle now. I've yet to debadge it, but it's such a great decanter that I wanted to keep it. But that's all bourbons and American whiskies, that is.
Nice.
And I've got my Scotch one just up there, although I'm a bit skeptical about leaving it in the decanter now, because someone's put the willies up me about lead poisoning. So if I die of lead poisoning, that's why.
Shit.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Well,
Mine is
I don't know how that works.
Mine is a long branch bottle, because when you peel the bottle off, the label off, it just says small batch aged in American oak, expertly crafted. So that's appropriate. That is mine, and it is, again, it's a nice tombstone style bottle. Kind of draws the eye. And I actually recently toasted oak finished my infinity bottle to try and polish the beautiful turd that it is.
It happens. I find my infinity bottle ebbs and flows, and sometimes it's awful, sometimes it's on point.
Yeah,
it happens.
Yeah, I guess we'll leave the master blending to the master blenders.
It's fun though.
Yeah, right.
I dig it. Yeah, I like those. I like that bottle. I also like the minor case bottle. It's very similar to that.
Yeah, yeah, that's a real nice bottle.
Yeah. Sweet. All right, cool. Let's move on.
Everyone got their D out?
There's a very dark D here.
It's a big D.
Nice. Let's see what happens. All right, cool. So on the nose, who gets to start this time? Who started the last time? Oh, it was Stephen.
That was me.
Let's start with the patty.
Well, I'm getting some burnt brown sugar on the nose here, and not just like the bag of very dark brown sugar that you get like molasses.
Yeah.
This is what I imagine a rum to smell like. It's very dark. Smells Caribbean. No, Stephen's shaking his head. I have no experience with rum, Stephen. You can shake it all night. I still wouldn't know. It is something unusual, anyways. I wouldn't say it's a bourbon or a rye. A lot of burnt brown sugar on. Well, not even like it's like molasses. It's molasses, just very intense brown sugar.
Are you saying it's not a bourbon?
Hashtag it's not a bourbon. It's a big dark D.
Oh my gosh. Vin PF from No Nonsense Whiskey. Give us your thoughts on the nose.
Well, that's it's not a dram, it's a punch in the face.
Exactly.
It's I just said then it's like it's burnt sugar, but it's like the burnt sugar that you would scrape off the bottom of a pan once you've burnt the sugar.
Yeah.
I don't think I like it straight off the nose, but we'll see as it develops. But I think it's a little bit too much for me.
It benefits from a little bit of water, this one.
Is this some kind of horrible sherry cask finish or something? Getting a bit of winey notes towards the end of the nose now that I've given it a chance to actually get past the burnt part.
You have a bit of winey notes.
Maybe I do. Hashtag it's not a bourbon. Hashtag sad.
I'm getting some weird sulfury notes off it, so it could be some kind of sherry finished hybrid or something.
It's quite sulfury.
Getting those sherry winey notes that I usually get with a sherry cask where it's been left too long.
It's like it feels maybe a bit PX. It's kind of like really it's like blended prunes. Like kind of blended prunes and brown sugar sweetness.
Yes, molasses drizzled over blended prunes.
That's the one. It is. It's like some really heavily stewed sugared fruit that's been reduced to the point of syrup. I mean,
it's just been left.
Yeah, it genuinely smells like something that you would chuck over ice cream. But it really does have quite a prominent, almost distracting sulfury note.
Yeah.
To the cask, and I think is that was that because the cask's been treated in some way?
Chris is pulling out an interesting angle here. Is it just sherry?
Oh, it could be. Johnny's evil and likes to torture us.
Satyricon, whatever that is. I have no idea.
It's a Christmas cake to the extreme. It's horrible.
It is. It's like it's plenty of like kind of mixed fruit and raisins kind of blended down. It smells as if it should be gritty. It does smell like there's a little bit of a green tinge to it. It makes me think it's relatively old. Which if it's sherry based, which the ABV seems too high for sherry. But it's just whatever it is heavily dominated by the sherry.
Winey. That's sulfury winey note, and then it's just raisins and dates and molasses, and it's very intense on every single front.
Very bitter.
Yeah,
Christmas cake. Yeah,
boozy Christmas cake.
The ABV seems
prunes.
Yeah. Keep you regular.
Oh my gosh.
My God, there's a lot of wine and a lot of oak in that.
That is very, very bitter.
Dark chocolate. Fuck's sake.
It is. It's kind of really, 80% cocoa, wine. Well, kind of like a really, a high ABV spicy, like 14% spicy, chocolatey, bitter, cask-aged wine kind of.
Yeah, the finish is very layered, which is nice. It kind of, as you chew through the finish, it does reveal more layers of flavor coming off one at a time. But again, it's very intense and packed full of stuff. Is it a tiny barrel?
It's not a tiny barrel.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's not a tiny barrel. It is a very intense barrel all the same. Very dark.
So what do you guys think about the balance between the nose and the palate?
It's like being punched in the throat as well as the face.
This is what, sorry?
It's like being punched in the throat as well as the face.
That sounds uncomfortable.
It just keeps punching you all the way through. It's like you wish it would stop. You're knocked out. Just leave me alone. I'm already crying.
It's hard to say. I mean, for me, as many people, if you watch my channel, will know, I'm very adverse to sulfur. Like, I find it hard to get past it. So, luckily for me, this is more a gunpowdery sulfuriness than eggy sulfuriness that I've got on some really bad sherried whiskies. But Greg's saying another Balcones could be a good shout.
What do you mean another? I haven't had any on here.
It's
very high.
Yeah, I think he might be leading me there a little bit. Yeah, it's very raisiny, very pruny, very sulfury for me. I would say the ABV's high again, maybe that sort of 52 bracket. I'm going to guess again.
The patty is lost. We lost him to the internet.
So the cask is way too dominant there. It feels almost like if you were to tell me that this was a blend of two different spirits, or a blend of a spirit with a PX sherry, or I say PX, but you get the sweetness of the PX, you get the raisins, the dates, the prunes, but then with a little bit of water, it opens up some really nice nuttiness that maybe is making me think could be Oloroso as well, or maybe it's seen time in two different sherry casks. But the base spirit, it doesn't feel dominant enough to fight through the sherry, which is making me think that is it a Japanese whiskey, something that's perhaps not too expressive on its own, but kind of seems to borrow quite a lot from the cask, and that's where it makes its money.
I've had a wee thought on this, because the last time I tried a whiskey that's tasted like this and was this thick and this treacly, it was a Cavalan Solist.
Yeah.
It could be that, because the temperature there is so insane that you get this, like, from one day to the next, it can be like under oaked one day and over oaked the next. And I always thought that the sherry cask solists were a bit much for me, which is very unpopular opinion amongst fans, but it is what it is. And I really hated the last one I tried, the last cask strength one anyway. So maybe something like that. Maybe it's not.
No, you could be right, because I think it was not last year, maybe in 2018. Stoke Whiskey Festival. We were there with Steph, that used to be brand ambassador for Eldorado Rum, but now deals with a lot of Cavalan and Japanese whiskies. And we tried a lot of Cavalan stuff. I think the one that stuck out was is one that I would buy. There was a very nice high ABV ex bourbon, and there was a very nice high ABV ex port. But this, I've got to stick with sherry, and I've got to stick with it's going to be Asian whiskey, isn't it? But with sherry for me.
Asian whiskey and sherry.
The base spirit on its own doesn't feel strong enough, and it's been completely overtaken by the cask, or by the previous spirit that inhabited the cask.
Bourbon Patty is back.
Yes, apologies, technical difficulties. My laptop does not give me any warning before it dies. It just dies. It likes to surprise me. So I'm on the phone. Yeah, right? Keeping it fresh.
Keep it fresh. All
Different camera angles now.
We have a couple of follow-ups since we lost you. There's been some guesses here. So Vin is in the Catalan side of things. Stephen has gone bold. He's gone Asian whiskey with sherry.
Okay.
Would you like to add anything to that?
This is the closest I've come to something like this in American whiskey was Town Branch did a 9-year-old bourbon that they finished for a while in some sherry casks, and the sherry is very prominent. It's Oloroso sherry they used, and you get these amazing bourbon notes, and then there's just this like punch of sherry in the face after, like the whole way through. And so, I mean, it very well could be a Cavalan or something or a Paul John or something from a very hot climate that just sucked the sherry right out of that barrel and is just like punching us in the face with it now. I wouldn't have any experience with anything that tastes like this in the past. I wouldn't say it's about Balcones, but it's something.
It is something. It's in the glass.
It's not Listerine, but it's something.
Well, and that you never know.
It's super intense for sure. It's intense on all fronts. So
have you tried adding some water? I know, Stephen, you added a little bit of water.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Kind of.
Yeah, a little
for me,
water,
it makes the finish. It makes the finish. If it's possible, it makes the finish more bitter for me.
Yeah, which again would.
Yep, there is a reason for that.
It heightens the fruity notes on the nose initially, kind of dials back the thick treacle and molasses, but you still get that really rich fruit cake. I'm still definitely going to say it's seen time in PX sherry, but the palate is definitely more with water. It's more approachable. But it is definitely like licking the inside of a cask, and it's like sucking the sherry out of the barrel along with it. Almost feels it's so sweet that it almost feels like it should have some sort of crystallized texture to it.
Yeah, I've added a dump of water there because I don't have anything more accurate than a glass of water next to me here, and it has dialed back to molasses, like Stephen says. But all I'm tasting now is sherry. That's all I'm getting is wine notes. Just a big mouthful of wine with the water I've added. I've probably added about 60 drops of water in one little splash. Like it was a decent splash, but it still has this really dark color. Like, look at that, as intense. Again, very fruity on the nose, but it's very winey on the nose. Now it's even more winier, and then all like a bitter sherry wine on the palate now. Everything else has faded away to like a bitter, dry sherry wine for me.
All right. So I'll take it as there's no takers on this one.
I'm still drinking it, so it can't be that bad. But I think I'd buy a bottle of it.
It's still alcohol, and you poured the bourbon into your infinity, so you're left with that.
This isn't going in there.
It's going in the bin.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's interesting. Like for me, the one thing that gives away the category, because when I was tasting this the first time, I was like, I can't taste the difference between this and some sherries that I've tasted. But with water, I'm starting to get some of the cereal notes that would give it away that it's actually a whiskey. But like up front, it's super masked. Like it's so intensely influenced by the barrel. It's insane. And there is obviously
hot climate.
There is a reason for that. And yes, it is hot climate. It's not a bourbon.
No.
All right, cool. Let's give it a rating before I pull up the bottle here. Vin, do you want to give our poor audience an assessment?
of
your rating?
It's a bit much for me, but it's not awful. So I'll give it a solid half at 2.5 on the palate. similar, 2.5, and then the finish a little bit too bitter for me, so a 2. Not damning, but not as good as the last.
All right. Bourbon Patty?
Yeah. It's not my cup of tea or my glass of whiskey. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go with, I'd say 2.5, a 2, and then maybe a 1.5 on the finish, because the finish is quite bitter. It goes all the way down. And it's just not so nice. So it's kind of just, it starts relatively and then just for me. It's not something that I would reach for anyway. But yeah, it's not like Vin said, it's not Griffo Stout Barrel Finish cider, which was like drinking toilet duck.
Right.
So that stuff was awful. If you ever want to prank someone, send them that. Oh God, no, it is. Yeah, it's not the best, but it's not the most worst thing I've tasted either.
All right, fair enough. Steven is still giving it a bit of blow there, so.
I'd say for me, I think ABV wise, it's probably sitting about 50, 57, 58. Maybe, yeah, about, I'd say 58.
All right, pushing.
Then I think nose, it starts off promising, but it really does tail off and give plenty of, it's like sniffing Play-Doh after a while. I think I'd say nose, I would give it a 2. Palate, I'd say probably I'd give it a 2 on the palate, and I'd go for a 1 on the finish.
Oh, 1. All right.
Yeah, it's just too bitter. There's nothing there. It's like, I think the base spirit is masked, and what you want to taste is the base spirit. The way to integrate it is to allow the base spirit to shine through and add rather than detract. And I think this is detracting from the base spirit.
Yeah.
So I would agree. So for me, on the nose, this is about, I think I'll be fair and give it a 3, because I do think that there's quite a lot of good stuff coming off it. It's not my preference, but I think it does well on the nose. I think everything from there just kind of dips as soon as it hits the palate, especially without water. It's just a punch in the throat, like Vin was saying. Like, that's exactly what it is. And then, like, yeah, the finish doesn't represent the spirit at all. It's just pure bitterness, which has nothing to do with the finish. Like, you don't actually taste anything.
No.
So yeah, so for me, the palate probably a 2, 2.5, and the finish is probably also a 1, 1.5, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, it's pretty. I'm a little bit disappointed in this, because I opened it for the first time and I shared it with everyone, thinking that this was going to be quite decent, and it's not.
It's a doozy.
No, I mean, it's an interesting one, and actually, let's just reveal it right now. It's exactly as Vin was saying. It is a Cavalan, is a Solist. It is the first release of the sherry cask, coming in at 58.6%.
Hey, that's pretty accurate on the ABV.
And it's, yeah, Stephen was pretty close there, 58. Solid, man. And this has won a bunch of awards, and a lot of people love it. But yeah, not for me. Not for me at all.
Which sherry
all those people have coronavirus.
They've lost their sense of taste and smell.
Exactly. Yeah, they all have live, laugh, love on the wall.
What sherry cask is it? It's got to be PX, or it's got to be a mixture of Oloroso and PX.
That's a very good question. This is my standard research level is about 0. So here we go.
It's a single cask, right? Solist is usually single cask.
It should be a single cask, yes. Let's see. Says nothing there. Well, at least it's meticulously bottled. and labeled.
That's
Not
nice.
production, but yeah, non-chill filtered, natural color. Yeah,
The chill filter might have done it a bit of good.
So actually, the reason I picked this one is because of you, Vin, because I was watching your last video of Cavalan saying, oh, I probably haven't had too many of these.
Mm-hmm.
You've had one solist or whatever, and you're saying that you pick up this sulfur thing on these things. So I put it to the test, and you've proven yourself right here, live.
Mm.
I have to say, I think that bottle that you've got there is the sample that, of the same release. Because if that's the first release, because I get this this Dram Team thing and they sent it to me in a tiny 1 milliliter bottle, and I tried it, and I was just like off camera, and I was like, this is awful. Didn't like it at all. And everybody just piled in on me saying that I was a moron, didn't know what I was talking about. It's wonderful stuff. And I was like, well, I'm not going to lie. If I don't like it, I don't like it, right?
Yeah.
There you go. So for everyone watching this, I picked that out without knowing what it was, and it was still awful.
It is fucking god awful.
I've
Let
found
them
out a
pile
bit
in. I don't care. They can kiss my ass. It's disgusting.
it is Oloroso. It's matured in Oloroso. 570 bottles in the outturn. I will read you the Master of Malt tasting notes. Nose, god awful. Palate, worse. Finish, sherry notes. Nose, sherried oak and dried fruit. Deepened brooding, marzipan, nuts, dates, vanilla, and spice. Palate, more of the same. Full and extremely impressive. More mixed dark spices. Finish, condensed cherry goodness.
They're trying to sell that bottle like it's a piece of.
Yeah.
You're polishing that turd with tasting notes.
Tastes like Bigfoot's dick.
Bigfoot's dick covered in burnt hair.
Jesus
To
Christ,
be more
you guys,
specific.
you're taking the whole tasting experience to a whole nother level here. It's like I haven't tried any of those things, guys. Where do I find that?
Vin, your opinion has my full support and backing. It is awful.
Yeah,
Let them pile on, and I don't care.
It's not pleasant.
This is a terrible whiskey. So I've got a playlist of terrible whiskey. Yeah. There's only about 5 drams in there right now, and a couple of them are cynical ones. Like they're not terribly bad whiskeys. They're whiskeys that have pissed me off. So they've been the one whiskey that's the worst whiskey I've ever tried in my whole life, that I will never call another whiskey bad because I've tried this, is the Fujikai 10-year-old, which like I literally, you get tasting notes of like wet dog and like rubber plimsoll, you know, those shoes that you used to have in like gym class and whatever. And it was just like barrel aged sake, but also like a tire put in there. Terrible. So I can't categorize this as terrible.
Yeah.
It's just definitely not something that suits me by any stretch.
You should try Griffo Stout Barrel Finished Whiskey. It is beautiful. It's delicious, complex. It will change your life.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Anything that's bad, if people say it's bad, I have to try it because I need to know that it's not just that person.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Greg's been there, the Fujikai. Yeah, it is truly god awful. But I want people to challenge me. Get me something that you think's worse than that. 100%, I'll try it.
There goes
the Griffo.
Have you got any of that? Have you got any of that cachaça from last week, Johnny?
That's Chris wants to know if it's as bad as the cachaça, and this is, I guess, is to Stephen and
yeah.
Martinez.
I will drink that cachaça. I'll have it on my cornflakes then finish this sample.
I'm washing my mouth out with cachaça and then piss later.
Are you saying that both of those things would be preferable to finishing your test tube of sample D?
This is brilliant.
Sample D is going in the bin.
So that's the alarming thing, because I think in that tasting I tried.
Opportunity with Cavalan is out the window now.
I mean, I'm
tried
going to cry myself to sleep thinking about that.
one in that tasting a few years ago. It was. I'm trying to look. I normally save these kind of things, but it was absolutely beautiful, and I think it was a port cask, and it did borrow heavily, but it seemed to retain a little bit more balance, whereas this is. You think the sweetness is gonna carry it through, but it doesn't. It grows increasingly bitter. So I'm assuming this is no age statement as well.
They can't put an age statement on it because it's so young. They get this sort of aging out of it in about 4 or 5, 6 years tops.
Yeah,
it's horrendous. So they can't put it on there, whereas nobody will spend 80 quid on a bottle.
So they make them wait to taste it, and then they wish they'd not spent 80 quid on a bottle.
Exactly. Some of the ones I have tried,
Sorry, Johnny.
some non-cask strength versions that like they call them the oaks, like the wine oak, the sherry oak, the bourbon oak. Well, not the sherry one, but the wine oak is fabulous. Red wine like cask. That's like a batch produced, kind of blended together one. So they've obviously taken some care in making that, whereas this is like the single barrel. Like, oh shit, that's over it. Get that in a bottle. Someone will buy that, Johnny. And but
sorry, Johnny.
They genuinely do good bottles. So I personally, I think it's just the sherry vibes for me that I don't like. But because I've only tried them and a handful of others, I'm hard pushed to spend the money they're asking me to spend to try it. If they want to send me some, then they can fill their boots. But yeah, it's not on my high on my list.
Would you really want some? If they sent you a bottle, 2 bottles tomorrow, would you drink them or would you just look at them?
I'd review it. 100%. But they'd get an email back from me saying, "Are you sure you want me to review this?" Because I'll tell people what I think.
Good man. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll just, if I don't like it, like if I had a bottle of this, I would probably just give it to some other reviewers and say, just get it around the rafters. Hint, Johnny.
Oh God,
it's a good way to share. Like it's a good way to share. And honestly, like you're saying, Vin, like I would love to try things that people think are really bad because it increases my spectrum of what is actually good versus what is actually really bad. Like instead of having this narrow spectrum of only drinking what you like and what you think is good, like all of a sudden you have no idea what bad is actually like. So all of a sudden you taste this stuff or Fujikai. And all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, this other stuff is actually not that bad in comparison.
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite review sites is Malt Reviews, and their scoring system is quite good, to the point where like a 5 out of 10 isn't a bad whiskey. It's just a middle of the road, whatever whiskey. Whereas like you see some reviewers that their worst ever whiskey starts at like 80%, which how could that be possible?
Yeah.
But like, they use the whole breadth. 1s and 2s are reserved for truly dreadful, and then it gets better from there. And for me, this would sit somewhere down there, maybe that kind of 3 or 4, whereas that Fujikai was like a 2. I reserve the 1 because I can't believe that I've tried the worst whiskey in the world. There must be something worse. And I reserve
Stout Barrel.
I want to try it.
Stout Barrel.
I'll get some.
Drinks by the dram, do a sample. Don't buy a whole bottle unless you're planning to prank everyone you know.
A German whiskey
terrible.
finished in the sink. I don't know if you mean that it was finished in a sink or if you finished it in the sink. Sink finished. That would be brilliant.
Well, it was his own fault for following a Jim Murray whiskey Bible advice, right? That's what you have to remember about that. It's a great book, and it's worthwhile buying at least one copy of it just to see it. But it is one man's opinion at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has a palate like anyone else, and you would have to like the stuff that he likes to be able to use that for anything.
He is a Sulphur Canary as well, like me.
He's also senile because his tasting notes sometimes are very odd.
Yeah, very odd.
I think last trip. Well, God, this is reminiscing about it. I was going to say, my last trip into Manchester. I work in Manchester, but my last trip up there on a boozy do, we ended up in Whiskey Barrel in the Northern Quarter, where we kicked a few of the BBS ragtime ryes in the side, and we grabbed a sample of the Cavalan Solist, but the ex-bourbon. When you can actually see, when you can experience the base spirit, they make damn good whiskey. It's masked to the point of could be anything.
Yeah, it's quite aggressive.
Yeah, I think it's
that's when you mature something so fast. I mean, you can't trade time for heat.
No,
I mean, it doesn't work that way. You can compensate certain aspects of a spirit, and you can achieve good things, but you can never achieve the same thing. So, like, you can't really compare something like this to anything of a similar structure that's been aged at the same time in a different, like, it just doesn't work. It's like oranges and apples. Like, you can't compare. It's just two completely different things.
Well, this is like when the comparisons that are laid between tropical and continental maturation for rum. If you're talking about taking a Hamden that's been that's used dunder, that's used muck, that's been open fermented for in excess of 2-3 weeks, that's using kind of like added and also naturally occurring local yeast strains and bacterias. That's never, and you put it through their twin retort pot still. It's never going to produce a bad rum. But if you age that for a period of 6-7 years in situ in Jamaica versus aging that for 6-7 years in main rum in Liverpool in the bottom of their deep, musty, beautifully moldy cellar, completely different product. They're not. You would not say either of them are a bad product. You know, you can mature something like a Foursquare, a Worthy Park, a Hamden. You can mature those things anywhere, and they will always make a good product. It's just it's different, that interaction that you get with the cask. The latest review that I've put up today is an independent bottling of a 4-year-old Worthy Park. It's all 4 years in Jamaica before being transported to Denmark for 12 months in export barrels, bottled at 57%, no chill filtration, no sugar, no additives. And it's a really solid example of, it's a 4-year-old rum, so that's probably carrying the maturity of maybe, if it was matured in continental climate, it's an 8-year-old rum versus, you know, the 4-year-old tropical. Then that's carried on or taken from the barrel, but then the port finish has added to it. You can still recognise the base spirit. Those trademark Worthy Park notes are all there, and they're all laid out in front of you. It's just, it's boozy. It's got a lot of youth in there, and I think I liken it to a puppy dog that's kind of clamoring for your attention. It's a little bit disjointed in terms of the way that its delivery is a little bit. It jumps all over the place, but the port finish has added to the spirit. It's made it different. I wouldn't necessarily say it's improved it, but it's given it a different facet that you wouldn't normally get, or you don't currently get as released from the distillery. And therefore it's been a success for me that you've added and you've enhanced or changed the experience to keep it recognizable, but also to add additional layers of complexity on top of what is essentially 4.5-year-old rum. And it's worked. This hasn't worked. You've masked the base spirit, and it's not good.
It's like heating something in a microwave versus an oven.
Yeah.
This is like forgetting the microwave popcorn in the microwave for like an extra minute and a half, and it's just burnt to shit. And you're like, I don't have time to make another bag. I'll have to eat this. And you're eating like nice microwave popcorn, but there's also shitty burnt bits in between, and everything just tastes like a burnt dog.
These are the best tasting notes.
A wet, burnt dog.
Wet, burnt dog. Not the dog you want.
And cherries.
The dog you get.
I'm not a big wine drinker, and this tastes like cherry wine, and it's not nice.
I'm sorry, Martin.
It's okay, Johnny. You know what? You're taking us on a journey, and this is just one more step along the way.
I did give you some Four Roses.
You did? You did, and I was surprised. I'm glad to know 2017 still doesn't rank high in my estimations, but
Fucker.
it's still delicious. It starts good, but the 2018 and 2019 are better.
In your opinion.
In my one-man opinion.
Are those bottles regularly available, or I'm assuming that they've just gone from everywhere now, those Four Roses?
You can probably still pick them up on the odd shelf around the world. Yeah. I think Spain gets a really big allocation, but it doesn't get bought up that quick.
Is it at a price that a rum drinker would buy, or is it at a price where I just think I'll just get another Foursquare or I'll get another Bellier?
I mean, these are like what, 150 or something, Martinus? 140, 150?
Yeah. This year, if you catch them, they usually hit the market around November, or actually end of October, because it's just coming up to my birthday every year. And they're usually, depending on where you get them, you can pay anything between 180 and 120 pounds for a bottle, which is at the lower end, you're getting a bargain every year because you're guaranteed something delicious for 120 pounds. Cask strength, non-chill filtered. There's little bits of char in the bottom of the bottle. It's a lovely looking bottle. It's hand numbered up to a certain amount of bottles. I know the UK, the importer is not very impressed because they sell half of all the small batch Four Roses in Europe, but they don't get half of the allocation of the limited edition small batch.
Right. Interesting. Well, I agree. It's fucking delicious. So yeah, if you see it,
yeah,
I'd grab it. Yeah, 180 is a bit much. I would say
Johnny's favorite.
I'll probably go 140, 145-ish. I think 150 is starting to push it for this, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think very few retailers actually charge the RRP because there's just such a strong history of it being like just over £90 and above. So if you're getting it at cost, it's £90, which happened to me once. One of my friends picked up a few bottles at cost of the 2014. But you're paying about 120, 110, 120 pounds from good retailers who know that they could charge more but don't.
Yeah.
So Milroy's of Soho pops to mind, and a few other retailers in London like that.
So Jerry's potentially would get the ones in October then. Always found them to be pretty reasonable guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry's, you'd have to be lucky.
They would charge a good price. Yeah, they would charge a decent price.
You have to be on the street in the shop when they get it because they don't do it online.
There we go then.
All right, cool. We're above the hour. I want to thank you for joining me tonight.
Thanks.
I appreciate you. You're awesome. Thanks for your opinion. I value your opinions.
Put that Cavalan in the bin.
Motherfucking Cavalan. Oh my god. So I bought this like 2016 is when I bought this, and I bought it in the airport in Singapore when I was working down there. And I was saving it, so I opened it to share it, thinking this is going to be fucking amazing.
Open your bottles, people. You could be holding on to a third and you wouldn't even know it. That's the message from tonight.
Anyway, yeah, price does not equal quality, especially personal taste. But who knows? Everyone has a different opinion. So, with that said, everyone, thank you so much. Let's bring up some good stuff here. Let's talk about this guy, Bourbon Patty.
Hey.
What's going on? People can find you right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a new review posted tonight, actually, of the very old St. Nick Harvest Rye. So they've relaunched this brand recently. This is non-age stated $168 a bottle. But is it worth it? You'll have to go read my review to find out.
That's a good plug. That's a good plug right there.
Yeah.
Steven, Rum Diaries blog. Right
Indeed.
there. New things coming up from you?
Yeah, well, I've got to get the Foursquare Vellier Honeypot Ontario on there. As I've got a few more of the Chairman's Reserve St. Lucian Master Selections. And I, at some point, have a almost sister release to the Worthy Park today that is unaged. And it's the WPE release from Worthy Park, which is a high ester release, and you don't see high ester releases from Worthy Park. So it's one to tune in for. Oh, and the Hamden Great House. I need to get that on there anyway. Hey, did I tell you I was meant to be flying to Jamaica tomorrow? What a crock of shit that's turned out to be.
Man. Well, at least you
Sorry,
have
man.
some reviews. Sad panda.
Yeah.
That fucking
Yeah.
sucks. Sorry to hear that,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah, no, well, Barbados at the end of the year, maybe.
All right, cool. And of course, Mr. Vin PF, also known as No Nonsense Whiskey. What you got going on lately? Anything new coming up for us?
Yeah. New reviews every Monday and Thursday. I'm checking out stuff at the weekends as well. I'm also trying to do a new series on Instagram where I've got so many samples, and I've kind of stopped reviewing normal samples. I review sample sizes that come from proper distilleries, like I've got like a Balcones pot distilled here, so I'll review that because that's enough, I think. But all the little ones, I've started doing this thing called sofa samples on Instagram, where I like literally at the end of the day, I could be in my pajamas, I could have just been out the shower, and I'll just sit there and just try it and see what I think. 5 minutes, job done. So basically, I'm everywhere. A new website launched as well.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
You are
Been
everywhere.
busy.
yeah. Well, I've been meant to be working from home, but I've been moonlight.
Working from home. Your employer could watch this.
They definitely don't watch this. Maybe they do, but
Yeah.
I'm still putting my work out.
Exactly. That's
Getting
all
it
that matters.
done.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Guys, thank you so much for joining tonight. I hope this was fun. And really appreciate
was.
you joining in on a Tuesday night. And thanks to everyone in the chat. It's great to have you guys. And
Yes.
hope to see you guys next week. We have Ian from Push Scotch over on Instagram. He's joining us. He's been on a live a long time ago. So he's joining us next week. And it'll be two very new, very different spirits. Who knows?
Nice.
All right, that's it. Peace out, guys.
Cool.
See you
Cheers.
Good night.
Hey, guys.
See you guys later.